hour. Night attacks happy hour. Night attacks happy hour. Dig.
Yo, it's happy hour. Hey guys, it's me, Brian Brushwood, alone live in studio, which of course means that everybody who's in the chat, feel free to ask whatever questions you want. So we started 7 minutes late because somebody, it's kind of wild having happy hour in the mix because people ask like, hey, when can I call? And used to be it's like, yeah, anytime tomorrow afternoon. But now it's like anytime between noon and 4. And even then it's like, oh, okay, early afternoon tomorrow. And then, like, for example, what happened today is it got to be like 3:20, 3:30. And I'm like, oh, if this call is going to happen, like they're about to call any second now, and I'm going to have to explain why I have to run off and do happy hour. So I ran over to, so I called him. I was like, hey, is now a good time? Let's go. All right. And then, all of that ran just a few minutes behind, but look, we're here. That's the important part. For everybody who has been dialed in, you guys know that Thursday is the day that Justin Robert Young shows up a little bit late because he's doing DTNS. Also, yesterday, I expressed my frustration at being sick or feeling sick. Right? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, sure, I'm sick. If you're throwing up, you're sick, right? But Justin and I afterwards were chatting, and he's like, dude, I've heard the story a million times. Person starts eating healthy, goes vegan, goes vegetarian, and then eats garbage. And spoiler alert, the Impossible Burger, still garbage after all these years. And so that makes sense why it would make me, it was just too intense. And then, and then we're good. Okay. Now that we're all caught up, I am looking at a link from Meryl Barr. I don't know, 1.3 million views, something on Twitter. It appears to be a woman in a clown makeup and a person doing American Sign Language translating. Let's see what it says.
As of today, there have been 38,160 cases of COVID-19 in Oregon, with 390
pick up
cases
the
being
Skype.
reported today.
Yo, no, okay, I will.
Sadly, we are also reporting 3 deaths today, bringing the statewide total for COVID-19 related deaths to 608. As of today,
What was the... All right, hold on. Let me start. Let's start with what everybody heard, and then Justin, who just came. Would you like to see it from the top, and then you could describe as we go through?
I think I got it. I think I got it. I don't know how much more I would see. All right, so immediately let's describe it. So yeah, she's dressed up like a clown and she's reading these very grave statistics, right? Brian, I'm giving you a few options. It's a Halloween dress up thing, and they just didn't connect what it was, and then realized, oh crap, we do got to film this. Whatever, we're just rolling with it. Everybody understands that it's Halloween time and people dress up,
Right.
or is it no? Everyone needs to pay attention to this, so we are going to do a thing that is intentionally there to get attention, or is it like just people have just a sick sense of humor, and this is like the most like metal public health department in the world?
There's one option you left off the table, which is they are people who don't regard themselves as being performers in the public spotlight, but it doesn't exactly take a PR genius to realize that you're more likely to get the word out if you dress a little funny while you give your very important health information. So it might be the kind of thing where it's like, these are people who don't normally, think of themselves as performers and so on, but they made the sensible conclusion that it's like, well, if we put some pizzazz on it, maybe a few more people will share it. And they were right, only just orders of magnitude off from what a few more people is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was option 2, but I do think that I would buy that. I would buy it if they're like, yeah, no, absolutely, please continue to forward this around, because the goal is everybody hears how many people died of COVID yesterday, so we understand that as we face another wave of it, that we're going to take it seriously.
All right, can I do an unfriend me unpopular opinion?
Go, yeah.
What is up in a world where ESPN, all the sports networks, my smartphone in my pocket is really, really good at within seconds translating words as I speak them into closed captioning, and government institutions deciding that that taking up, normally a quarter, maybe 2/5, maybe 1/5 of the screen with somebody doing American Sign Language to tell the story. In this case, the ASL is literally half the screen. It's like it's a clown and her co-host, and the co-host's job is to literally do nothing but say what the host is saying. The co-host is saying, like is this by the way, I love that somebody just showed up and says, "Oh Lordy, I was late for something, wasn't I?" Based on the visual, yes. But again, this is not a hill I want to die on. I'm not going to die on the let's not have American Sign Language represent, because I assume that there's levels of emotion and communication and translation that are important. But why is it only like the less and less powerful of a government organization you get to, the more prominent the ASL screen bandwidth is compared to just, spend the what I, and this is probably unfair, spend what I would imagine is the $50 a month subscription to Closed Captioning Pro to put up there.
I would not be shocked if some of these are government regulations, that any kind of government message official government message needs to be accompanied with ASL. And if you're going to have to do ASL, then the only question is exactly how big it's going to be. And if it's whatever it is, then it's like, all right, if in a state of emergency, the governor is standing next to an ASL person and we have both of them on screen, then why should that not be the same thing that happens visually? And that's why they're effectively split screening this with a clown reading about dead people, and then a very
and by the way, this may be the exception that proves the rule, where it's just like, oh, I'm sorry, did you want 100% clown and clown captioning?
Yeah. Beyond that, I presume there's probably less of a fidelity issue with ASL than with closed captioning, because like even when you turn on closed captioning, you can see things that kind of go wrong fairly often in a live setting, in a news setting. But that
but I guess also, I mean, keep in mind, with a little dash of irony here, on this very program, people sometimes complain, how do I turn off the closed captioning? Like, I can already hear them. Why is it on screen? Man, that's interesting. Which do you think is the bigger ethical canyon to cross, or possible chasm? Bias of one person saying something and the other one running it through their wetware machine to translate, and along with that comes all of their biases about what they're saying or the intensity with which they're saying it or whatever, or the mechanical bias chasm of there being occasionally words and phrases it doesn't understand and as a result mistranslates, but does so in probably an unpolitically biased way.
Well, number one, I don't think ASL would be around if deaf people didn't prefer it, right? Because if deaf people didn't prefer ASL, then it's one less person to employ, and you could just go to closed captioning. So I would guess that that's part of it, but that's an uneducated guess. the more educated argument that I would make is if you know things go wrong, then everything you see from the text is some level of untrustworthiness. Whereas if there is maybe more of an ability to read at least the intentionality of some of the American Sign Language signs, that you could put it together through context a little bit more. But that would be just an educated guess.
Man, I would love to hear from somebody who's actually in a position to state their preference.
Now, here's the only thing I need to know is why is this ASL guy getting away without being in a top hat and having like a lion's whip on him? Like, why is he not in costume as well?
Right. Also, so I guess because the one is dressed as a circus fixture, the other one has to be as well. He should be the
Exactly.
ringmaster, or
ringmaster,
maybe have a daredevil helmet on and be about to do the circle of death.
He should have one of them Snapchat filters that has like a vibrating motorcycle in front of him. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. When I was in high school, I put some serious effort into learning ASL. I remember most of my alphabet, and that's about it, unfortunately.
yeah, I've never had the pleasure of learning ASL, but it's got to be an amazing skill to have to communicate with people that have a much harder time communicating. It's got to be a fascinating subsection of humanity.
Yeah.
Much in the same way that like learning another language, like, you just unlock a whole nother realm of experiences.
What was fun to hear was somebody was sharing with me that he was down scuba diving, let's say somewhere in the Caribbean or whatever, and seeing the most amazing stuff he's ever seen, and trying to wave and point to his girlfriend or whatever. And meanwhile, he looked over at his two hearing impaired, also scuba compatriots, and they're having full conversations in 100% fidelity. like they're all just like, I don't know, that seemed like a fun thing.
Yeah. How you feeling, man?
Better. I think you were right. Just before you joined us, I shared our post-show conversation yesterday, where basically you said, "Hey, seen this a million times. Somebody gets healthy, they start eating, lighter vegetarian, vegan fare, and then they try to eat garbage food, and then they get sick, and then they sleep poorly, and then they're tired the next day." And then, like, the moment you spoke it in those terms, I'm like, "Yep, checks out." And then, sure enough, everything else seems fine today. So, and the only thing that worried me was that second throwing up after the show, where I was throwing up just the Gatorade I had swigged down.
Yeah.
So that was the one that worried me.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in the psychosomatic, like physical reactions of just your body making things happen, like stress or worry. Like, and we talked about it
in the
when I came
context
back
of
from
shows.
Tulsa.
Yeah.
Well, no. When I came back from Tulsa for covering the Trump rally, and I thought I fucking got COVID, and I just left the air conditioning off, and it's like the fever that I could have sworn I had a fever. I was getting sick. I was feeling chills, and then it was like I go to leave to get all the things that I know I'm now going to need to have for the next week as I quarantine at this hotel or whatever. And on my way out, I looked down and realized, oh, the air conditioning's off. That couldn't be it. Anyway, let me go get my thermometer and Gatorade and whatever. Come back. The room is cool. I take my temperature 50,000 times, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like that's what that is. But I guarantee you, if I hadn't left to go hunker down, I would have gone to sleep that night believing and going to get a COVID test, believing that I had COVID. Like 100%.
That's interesting, because I thought you were going to take the other side, because we've talked about the effect of, some magic happens when your body just doesn't have permission to get sick. And
God, yeah.
Like both of us have experienced life on the road touring And it's
Yeah.
like when there are thousands of dollars on the line and you flew out here for this one effing thing, you're going to do the thing and that's that. And it's fairly remarkable how everything can pony up for exactly 1 hour and 25 minutes and then it's over. And you can't even lie to your body. You're like, no, man, we still got a few more minutes to go. And the body's like, fuck you. I saw you
No,
do
you
the
don't.
straitjacket escape. I know it's
Yeah.
over. You're like, but I got to sign autographs. You're like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You could say, I'm sorry, I'm ill, and then walk away. And it's like, all right, you win again, body.
Like I've had it where the worst feeling is, you've got 3 or 4 things in the next week,
Oh,
right?
geez, yeah.
And you feel sick on day 1. You can barrel through that week, and then you always pay the piper when you get home. Like you always are, like you will be wrecked. Like there's only deferral of it. You can't will yourself out of it, but you can adrenaline your way like through it for a little bit, and then you will eventually pay the reaper.
Yeah, dude, it is intense when that bill comes due, for the record.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I told you about the time where
that's
it's like, so one of the things when you tour on the road and you realize like, okay, I could do my, 70-minute stage show. But all of these people, like occasionally a student will say something like, well, is there anything you can add to that? Because we have more in the budget. And this is what's beautiful about working the college market is you're dealing with unsophisticated negotiators who have been handed a budget and told, this is your budget. And then you
spend your budget so
Right.
you can ask for more budget next time, depending on how many people show up. And by the way, you're a senior, so you don't really give a shit.
Right. And also, you saw me as a freshman and it was one of the best, parts of that year for you. So now you're a junior or a senior, you're on your way out and it's like, what else you got? And maybe what you mean is, I love your show. I would like more of it. Maybe what you mean is, I like you a lot, and what you're quoting is far
Would you
below
like
what I'm
some
allowed
money?
to spend. Yes, exactly. And so we started adding, that's part of the reason I wrote that skeptic lecture, the Scam Sasquatch and the Supernatural, which, by the way, led to the very first time I spoke to Randy on the phone and totally intimidated me because I was calling to simultaneously seek advice and permission to focus and tell the story of the psychic surgery, which, strangely enough, would later show up on that Penn and Teller Fool Us performance.
More than that, I'm pretty sure that that lecture is the reason why I'm married.
Holy
'Cause
shit!
I think
Holy shit!
Ashley booked you, I believe, for that lecture, not even for the live show. I
Yep.
think it was just for her campus group. And then that's how you came into contact with Ashley. That's where Ashley asks you, hey, do you do live streaming? And you're like, I do. She's like, all right, well, I'm on a Mac. How do I do it? And you're like, I don't know, but my co-host uses a Mac. Here's the contact. And that's the
No
first time that I ever
kidding.
talked to Ashley. Yeah.
Wow! And then the first time you guys met in person was at Dragon Con. Is that right?
DragonCon,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Man,
But yeah,
that's
that
crazy.
was the first, as I've understood the canonical story. It was, you getting booked for the lecture and only the lecture, which I take it to be, well, that was a rarity, but certainly one that you were willing to do to, get paid by a student.
Yeah, I think it might have been an SSA event in Columbus,
Yeah.
Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that sounds right. Man, it's really wild. Okay, so let's take this off ramp.
Sure.
I don't know how to feel about
Ashley, she's very weird,
No,
and
no,
I
no, no,
haven't
no.
liked her since that first book.
No. First of all, Ashley and I got along famously the moments Dance Revolution got mentioned.
God,
we
yeah.
suddenly had instant kinship, and we
Yeah,
started
yeah.
comparing notes on difficult challenges of how Hysteria beats I forget the other one, but Dynamite Rave. There you go. In a world where your whole operation is just you and the only gizmo you have is to trade your time for money. I think both you and I are in a little bit of a different place now in that that we're reaching more people than we could at any one live event. Like even now, with this discussion, with our stated goal being that we're going to show up with no plan, we're going to have a discussion, we're not going to care about the fact that more people are hearing us talk right now than at just about any single live show either of us have ever done in our entire lives.
Yeah.
It's do you ever get sad for the it changes the math, where it's like, come give a talk, come give a lecture, come give a show, come do whatever. Do you ever wish that you were that hungry again, or I don't know. I guess I haven't revisited how I think about it, because I fondly think of that show, but I also remember that was a lot of work. I had to show up the day before. I had to set up early in the morning. I had to run through a bunch of tech queues. I had to sit and wait for 6 hours until eventually it was my turn to talk. And then I did. And then afterwards I had to break everything down and politely, a bunch of people tried to have conversations. I had to politely remind them that this is the part where I have to strike the show. And then I remember a very lovely hour-long dinner afterwards. That was a lot of work to reach a 1/8 of the people we're reaching right now. Just talking, saying whatever we want.
I think we have a different relationship with live events because yours was built by you and I was kind of playing a part.
You were plugged into an existing machine.
I was plugged into a machine and I could do it my own way. And there were ways that I could do it that I would get satisfaction for optimizing the machine better than other practitioners. And there were metrics by which, I think that the similarity is you knew the tips and tricks of like, know who the people booking me are. Always make sure that like that the success is not even necessarily just doing the live show, but whether or not I get booked again next year. Like there's all these little things,
and also knowing you would be
games.
reviewed in magazine publications. They would give like stated reviews of how much they liked or didn't like your show.
So it's like you can play that game, and that was similar in that I would go and I would know the client and I would know how to massage a client. I would know that like at the end of it, if we're getting good reviews or blah, 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 then, or they rebook for next year or 6 months from now, then that's awesome. That's me doing a great job. But by the end of me doing that, I was in an almost adversarial relationship with the audiences. Like, I not to say that I would ever hate them or whatever, but
but you knew, like, okay, so for me, I had a spectrum. There were times that I would appear on other people's show, and adversarial is not a bad word. Like I knew, I would think of them as, here is a hostile entity that I am invading their current show. They paid to watch this band, and now all of a sudden I'm walking on stage. My goal for this 15 to 25 minutes is to win them over and then say, now you love me, bye. And then sometimes there was an hour-long version of that at a community college. They were there to have lunch, and all of a sudden I'm eating fire trying to give them a history lesson. And my goal was I had an hour to win them over and then say, you're all clapping, bye. But every so often there would be colleges that would promote me well or plug me into an event where it was known that they're going to see a magic show. So the audiences were already primed, whether or not it was for me specifically, or certainly like to a degree, Halloween Horror Nights, there were a lot of people who were there to see me, which shaped that stuff.
You were an attraction. You were doing a Brian Brushwood show.
Whereas from gig one for you to gig last of you, there was never, I mean, outside of a couple of fans here or there, in general, nobody was there for the Just Robert Young show.
Like I could count on one hand the amount of people for whom either as actors or as clients like knew anything of me, right? If anything, I had far more people that knew me because they booked again and they were like, Justin's back, like than I had anybody who knew me from internet stuff.
Which, by the way, that's not bad, is people who are like, you were fun last year.
Yeah, so, I mean, it went like this. Step one, get good at this thing. Okay. So that's a process. That's probably about a year of me really like doing it, focusing on what it is, what I need to break down about myself, what I need to build up in terms of these skills, blah, blah, blah. Step 2, repeat excellence. So it's like, okay, now I need to know what it's like when I have a bad day. What happens when my flight's late? What happens when my tech doesn't work? Like now just making sure that you are foolproofing the skills to translate in case of emergency. And then past that, it was like, how lazy can I do it? How little effort can I put in? Like, and still crush it, right? And then past that, it became, no, no, no. Now, and this is where it eventually ended, the clients are cattle, and I am pushing them through my slaughterhouse that turns them into money. How do I do that the most efficient? How many money stakes can I make out of this group, and how much can I make them come back? And once that became it, there was, there was not a lot of joy in enjoying what I had done with them. If anything, at that point, that's where the switch flipped to me, where I was like, all like the happiest crowds would be like, oh my God, you're so much fun. Are you from Kansas City? I can't believe they made this thing. You're not from Kansas City. You're from San Francisco.
Wait,
This is
see, you don't even work for the same company that we work from? You're not doing this like just because you love doing it?
Yeah, like, oh my God, that's not, what an interesting story. Man, you should really come back with us and let's have a few drinks. And that is genuine excitement. I would, in another life, probably enjoy that level of genuine excitement. But once I switched the flip switch to, no, this is about pushing them through the money slaughterhouse so money falls out, I know there's only one way that I fuck everything up after a great, perfect show. And that's by going out drinking with the people and somebody saying something, or me saying something, or me cursing when I'm not supposed to curse, or making a joke that they don't find funny. That's the fastest way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And at that point, I would like, I do the thing, jazz hands, big applause, anywhere between 12 and fucking 500 to 1,000 people going nuts. And then at that point, I would be like, head down, client, thank you very much. Here's your data. Like, do that. Everybody else, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Eyes down, tear down, get the fuck out. If I see anybody at the same hotel restaurant that I'm at, I'm leaving. Like, if I see anybody elsewhere, there, Justin's here, I'm like, I gotta go to the bathroom, and I'm leaving. Like, I wanted nothing to do with them, not because I didn't like them. In fact, I was afraid that I was going to like them.
Well,
and that's where some of the joy, I think, kind of went away.
Whether it's the person or what the possibilities for the evening represented, because it could be that, let's say in a best case scenario, you go out, have a wild time. What does that boil down to? A name you half remember a year from now, a vague image that's a lot like all the other vague images of places that you went to, and then 2 hours less sleep the following day. However, even as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of all the ones that really stand out. For example, Scoopernova Girl is in the chat right now, and I remember that get together after Proctor's where everybody went to the sports bar across the street or whatever.
That again,
but that's different. That's different. Yes,
that's a you show.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I will say this, as anybody who's ever come to see us live knows, we go out after the show.
Yes.
And one of us will be there until like it's too late. Like,
yes.
we will spend ample time. Everybody will get a chance to hang out. Everybody will get a chance to say their piece. Like, that is something I love doing with our shit. Because again, they're there for us. They know our story. Like, they have questions that they would love to ask us beyond like, so how long you been doing this? Oh, I went to San Francisco once.
That is the biggest difference, is people who who are the Colin Robinsons of like, oh, so you're here. We're the one. So what you're saying is you can't really leave until I've got your check right here. But first, let's say we get dessert. And then how about a post-dessert aperitif? And then don't let me forget to give you this check. It's me, Colin Robinson.
Yeah, no, it's there is like by the end of that for me, I was definitely like it was very mechanical. If anything, the games within a game for me were more about travel. It was more about how can I optimize my time getting to the airport? How many drinks can I have before? How many miles am I racking up? Like all that up in the air shit. Like all that like status, like maximizing points, figuring out where the cool the fastest service in O'Hare is, booking the fucking perfect flights and shit like that. Those were the games within a game that never got old to me in the same way that the actual performances did. Or the other thing was when I was there, I was far more interested in finding the shit I wanted to do in that city. So I was finding the cigar bars. I was finding the gyms if I was in a healthy thing. I was finding the barbecue restaurants. I was finding all this other shit. But like compare that to, let's say, when I was on the road for PX3 and covering stuff, that was way more of a work trip. That was way more of a like oh no, I gotta get the sound. Like every time that I'm like, I can go here or not, it was like, fuck you. It's like the voice in my head was just deafening. Like, hell no, you didn't fucking fly all the way out to goddamn South Carolina for you to not go to literally everything that you possibly can. You were going to do everything that you possibly can. And then I don't care if you're tired, you're then going out and you're finding other reporters and you're drinking with them because that is your networking. There is a 24-hour schedule that includes proper sleep that you are here for. That's what you are doing. Whereas, when I was on the road for the Go game, it was like, look, I'm here I go in, I do the thing, the money comes out the back end to the boss. I get paid, and maybe I'll get a bonus if I do a lot of them. But other than that, my head's in, like, all right, if there's not a cigar bar, then there's probably a hookah lounge. And if, maybe they'll be cool about me getting a 6-pack. And like, that's what I'm thinking of. That's my thing, and figuring out the hotel that's closest to the airport and shit like that. Like that. Those were the things that really kind of turned my gears.
Yeah, it's man, it's a bit weirder now. I mean, certainly 2020 threw us for a loop, but it's like now I perceive my job is to build the clubhouse, and man, oh man, was I looking forward to the Founders Day.
I was just thinking about that today. I was literally just thinking about the Founders Day thing because it seems like a billion years ago. I mean, like this was just to bring people back a decade ago. Like I was remembering the conversations that I was having with you and then with Maine about like, because Maine was on the fucking COVID thing way early. The earliest person I knew that was like dialed into this being a big thing.
He's
was
a
Andrew.
Millionaire in COVID panic. Like he bought way early in that.
Way early in COVID. And so I remember that being a thing of like Maine saying like, you should really think twice about this thing, really think twice about this thing, and probably even being more pointed than that. And I was thinking about, wow, that's a fucking argument that like try to explain that to a human in November. Like that shit happened in what, February? Like mid-February? Like after.
Yeah, I think March is when we started really pushing.
Yeah, and so it's like, holy shit. Imagine explaining that conversation to somebody now, months later, and being like, "Oh yeah, no, this was the argument that was being had, was whether or not this Founders Day thing was going to happen."
And as a matter of fact, just today I hung out for a couple of hours with your friend of mine, Josh Rubin. He came by and we had some torchies hanging out in the soundstage, and we were talking about how at the time South by Southwest canceling seemed like, whoa, bold move. wow, all those unrefunded tickets, like over a thing that might happen, and then instead it turned out to be like one of the smartest, most prescient moves we'd seen in all of, like as you put it, like somebody's gonna have the bill in the form of the headline, blank
Yeah.
catch COVID from event that did not cancel.
And it's gonna live for 100 years.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be there until the next time there's something like this, which will probably be 100 fucking years from now. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think of how much shit changed. And then also like Founders Day, it was like such a crazy memory to have, because it's like, oh yeah, Founders Day was an early casualty, but like since then it's been the fucking entire slate. Everything. It's like, I was joking. Next week we were supposed to go to Vegas for Scoop Fest.
Ugh.
And it's like, that's the second Vegas event that I was booked for. Like we had the TMS thing that was around the same time as Founders Day. And then we had Scoop Fest, which is supposed to be next week. And it's like, those are 2 trips to Vegas that were like business trips that just kind of go away. And now it's like, it's so weird to be like, fuck man, I'm stressed. I'm sick of fucking being in this goddamn house. Fuck this shit. I just want to go. Like, all right, well, the normal path. Fuck it, we'll go to Vegas. I can't go to Vegas for the week. That's the reason why we're here. Fuck this goddamn virus. Fuck this.
So it's been a minute since we've put on these speculation hats, but Mirovina in the chat says, you think it'll all be over by summer? No, I don't think it'll all be over. But if the real question is, do you think we see a second year in a row of major events canceling?
Yes.
I don't know that we do.
Well, it depends on what we mean. Do we see them come back to where they were? No.
No,
I think
but I think we've seen a lot of things full on cancel that will be quote unquote back this year, but with heavy restrictions.
Yeah, I suspect we'll see physical versions with gigantic digital footprints for a lot of things. Like there will be a Dragon Con, but maybe not. Like I'll tell you what will probably happen in a lot bigger sense now than it ever really has. And next year will be the digital subscription for blank, like, which has always existed for like a BlizzCon or like shit like that. But it's like, I think you're going to see no one's going to want to push everything to Twitch for a second year unless they're getting massive fucking like money for it, money to make it free. They're getting like a huge sponsorship thing. Otherwise, I think like a lot of the shit that we'll see, like I'll put it this way. Could I see you doing Founders Day, or maybe you don't even call it Founders. There's some live.
I mean, it's got to be. I mean, look, there's a very specific reason it's April 9th.
Well, yeah. Regardless of that specific event, like, could I see you doing a live event where it's all the talent plus limited local crowd or whatever,
enough to
socially
provide
distanced
social proof,
feedback, right? And then founders get the, well, now I'm back to the Founders Day thing, but it's like founders get the digital thing for free and anybody else has to pay X amount of money for it. Like, yes, I could see that happening, depending on how this second wave goes, sooner rather than later, right? But all, 100 plus people in the soundstage, I don't know, maybe. I mean, next year seems possible, but at this point, I'm kind of out of the COVID optimism business.
I mean, I think all of us are out of the prediction of any variety business.
Yeah, I've been. I feel like my heart's been run over fucking too many times predicting the like, no, don't worry, we'll be back in the bars will be open by the end of the year or something like that, like, which is a bet I made and I lost. Like,
by the way, in COVID whiplash news, whiplash report, the within 24 hours, I saw two different headlines. One was Russian scientist gets infected with COVID twice. Story is dude had COVID in maybe he's Ukrainian, I don't know, but had COVID in February. Somewhere along the line decides, well, I'm going to prove to everyone I bet I can get COVID again. Starts seeing all of his clients without protection. Spoiler alert, gets COVID. So news implications. Nah, antibodies don't last as long as you'd like, do they? Be afraid, everyone. Meanwhile, large-scale, double-blind, peer-reviewed study gets announced literally the next day saying, oh, CDC was saying 90 days of immunity. Finland study said 4 months of immunity. New study says probably you have 5 months at least, probably more of immunity. So it's I don't even know. I don't even know.
I mean, it's like, have you seen the latest on the vaccine?
No. Well, I don't know what the latest is. Also, BioCow wanted to know if I got COVID toes. No, I did not.
So Pfizer has been the most aggressive. Like, they've been the one doing press saying like they'll know where it's going by September or October. Like, they were gunning to put Pfizer's name on the first vaccine cleared.
Got it. They wanted to be the Neil Armstrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
They had their earnings call and they said, well, I forget what the exact term is, but they're like, we haven't done our final review, our internal review before we submit it to the FDA. And the reason why was because they haven't been able to have enough people in the placebo study to get COVID. Not enough people have.
Oh, wild. Okay, so they bothered to give out the placebo, but
yes,
the people who took the placebo, like they're all Wile E. Coyote style, peeking from the bushes, like, come on, get that COVID, come on.
So now they can't statistically prove that the vaccine works because not enough. They're at like 75% efficacy, but not enough people in the placebo group have gotten COVID to prove that you can get COVID when you get the placebo and not the vaccine. So that's why we are still waiting. It's not because anybody with the vaccine has gotten COVID or enough that it was like a problem. That has gone fine so far. But they have not had enough of their placebo people get COVID, which is just like a fascinating thing that I never thought of.
Yeah, I would be so curious to know, and I guess the only way you would know is, assuming they still have antibodies, is to do antibody tests on a lot of people. But like it's really bizarre to, when one of our team got it and went through the full run completely asymptomatic, and it seems like that would happen a lot. And it seems like the only way to know for it is to test for it. Seems like the only people who would go and get that test are people who have recently been sick, which of course you would not do if you had no symptoms. So, man, what a tricky vixen this one is.
Oh, it's a real son of a bitch, Bri. It's and Europe's getting racked again.
Oh yeah, shut down France, much to the delight of Germany. Christopher Titus.
Yeah, and Germany shut down again. Although their thing was fascinating. They are shutting down bars and gathering places until December 1st, paying 75%. That like their give back to the businesses are, this will lift on December 1st, and we will pay 75% of your operating expenses through that period, and they're leaving schools and childcare open. So there is like some element of, at least parents can count on that element of things still going on. But I don't know. It's nuts.
Yeah, man. It's pretty weird because here we are creeping up on November, and we're saying most of the same things we said at the beginning of Happy Hour, only we're saying them in this tone of voice instead of like a louder, more shrill, more terrified voice.
I mean, what are you gonna do, dude? It's wild. It's just I think the frustration obviously kind of boils over I was saying on the stream today that like I'm out of the virtue signaling business on COVID. Like there are practices that I want to adhere to. There's practices that if I'm in a conversation with my friends that I would like to communicate, but publicly, it's like, you want to know what? I'm going to catch more fucking flies with honey than I am with vinegar. I'm not into fucking shaming people for doing X, Y, and Z. If it's a conversation I think I can win, then I'll have it. But I'm just like, I'm out of the virtue signaling business when it comes to this, because it's so fucking personal for people. They are like, people are operating so emotionally that otherwise I'm just pissing in the wind.
Well, and plus also it's you're not only climbing uphill in terms of what it means to them to actually get the disease or expose themselves to the disease or what have you. Like you're not even dealing with the same base level of facts on all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like people have different informational diets and they're dialed in on different things. Like it was astonishing to me. And we've talked about this on this show where it's like I mentioned, yeah, I'm going to go see a movie now cuz I can. And everyone's like, that was a funny joke, bro, but as you know, people who are not as smart as me might think you actually mean that. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? I definitely can go see a movie. Here's the CDC page and they're all like, "Okay, well, I've read this now, and now I know, but, I mean, just, could you think about the other people who don't know?" And it was like, all right, well, okay.
I will say this, my least favorite argument in a million different contexts is, well, think about the dumbs.
Yeah, right. What about the people who aren't smart like you and me?
What about the dumbs?
Yeah.
I hate that argument. It is so fucking condescending. It is also not true. Like, people are making decisions for more than just the caricature that you might have in your head. And also it's like, no, I'm not here for people that don't want to engage with me in the way that I want to engage in with people. Like, if I wanted to pander, I would pander. I obviously am not doing that. Like, we had this conversation on the stream again today that like people were asking me like why I wasn't covering certain stories. And I'm like, well, I don't want to.
Why don't you want to tell the truth about the sulfuric gases on Jupiter's moon of Io? I haven't heard you say one word about it.
And I was like, look, I don't like the niche I'm trying to carve out is what I care about, not what everybody else is talking about. If there's something that's so loud that I have to deal with it, then I will. But it's like, I'm not searching this shit out. In fact, I want to be a thing where you're not going to hear the same shit that you hear on every other political podcast or political outlet. Like, because I want to be different. I want to be fun. I would rather read poll results as a strip club DJ than have the same conversation you're hearing everywhere.
Yeah, boy, and you're not kidding. It's a lot of the same. I wake up every day and I check the same dumb news sites and I'm like, please, just something different. I get as far as TRU and I'm like, no. I get as far as BID and I'm like, no.
No.
I get as far as COV. I'm like, no, just literally something new, something different.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. I'm sure it'll all go away next week. I'm sure nobody will ever mention it. Well, no, if Biden loses, Biden will go away. They will fucking Poochie Biden out of this fucking picture frame so goddamn fast. He is like, that is one thing that is unforgiving to people that lose in general, is that like they get raptured. It is like they just turn to dust and blow away. And all of a sudden, like, the only people that you are ever remembered by is the assholes who have 50 bumper stickers. And like, that's it. That's where you will forever live is the dude who still has a Gore Lieberman 2000 bumper sticker.
So this is how dumb and bad it's gotten. This is how scraping the bottom of the barrel all of journalism has gotten. Because I check Google News because it's algorithmically generated, and in fact I eschew. I don't want whatever it thinks I want. Anything that says tailored for you. I'm like, fuck you. I don't want to even know what you think of me. And by the way, I've peeked and it's always just Rick and Morty spoilers or think pieces. That's all it is. And I hate it. But there was one where it's just like, along with the end of the Trump campaign, will be the worst part about the Trump campaign, his playlist at live events. And so I'm like, all right, what do you got? And I click on it because I want to know what the playlist at his live events is, right?
So good.
Article consists of, I swear I have this theory that everything wrong about the Trump campaign can be summed up in his playlist. It's all devoid. It's all feelings divorced from context, kind of like the way he talks. Here's an example. It's somebody else's tweet embedded in which you see a crowd grooving to Gloria from the 80s, right?
Yeah.
He goes, anyway, hopefully that'll be gone soon. And that was the fucking article, Justin. That was the fucking article. His dude said Trump has a shitty playlist and unironically plays it. Here's a embedded tweet. I don't know. I've got 6 more of these to push by 7 o'clock today. Like, fuck you.
I swear to
journalism.
God. That's not even the funniest part of his playlist. The funniest part about his playlist is he has not 1 but 2 songs from the Village People on it.
Yes.
And the crowd fucking loves it. No, it's shit. I had there's this thing, and I don't know whether it goes away if Trump loses or if it just becomes them covering a bunch of other stuff, but just people retweeting him obviously making jokes as like, fuck
I can't
this
believe,
guy.
right?
I can't believe, and it's like, no, you're just retweeting him, like making, like he had this thing as like
weirdly,
Trump.
you're agreeing with him because he's saying it in a sarcastic way. You're saying, but if he meant it, that's fucked up. Which is why he said it in a fucking sarcastic way. So you're just agreeing with him.
And you're just like, do you love him?
Like I don't
like why are you just like saying hilarious joke by Donald Trump? Because that's basically what you're doing. Like he had this whole thing today about like California, you need a special mask. You need a mask that you can eat through. And if they see you in a without a mask, they're going to throw you in jail. And it's like, yeah, he's doing a bit. It's Arizona, which fucking has a rivalry with neighboring state California. He's basically saying like fuck Shelby in Shelbyville. They dance like
and
this.
Also, beneath the surface is that would be fucked up if that was a thing, and only somebody we don't like would do that. And then it's just like. No, that is fucked up. And I can't believe he would even suggest it.
I can't believe that the president of the United States, that white people be driving like this.
All right. Yeah, let's shut it down. Hold on. Take us out with this important news. Here we go.
160 cases of COVID-19 in Oregon, with 390 new cases being reported today. Sadly, we are also reporting 3 deaths today, bringing the statewide total for COVID-19 related deaths to 608. As of today,
all right,
there
we'll
have
see
been
you guys.
See ya.
Next time. Bye. Oh, man. Here we go.
Happy hour.